name is Elijah, a nurse at St. Margaret's Hospital in Bristol. My night shift began as usual, black coffee and enough cigarettes to keep me alert. I was in charge of the general surgery wing, 8 rooms, 7 of them occupied by patients in stable condition. This night felt sticky and heavy. The clock had just passed 1 in the morning when the evening nurse handed me the patient's files. Room 204, routine procedure, but keep an eye on him. He seems to be in more pain than he should be. I glanced at the file. The patient's name was Munir al-Shuhub, 64 years old, Syrian, had undergone an appendectomy. I began my rounds. The dim lights cast distorted shadows on the white walls. The sound of the monitors formed a monotonous rhythm, almost hypnotic. I entered the rooms one by one, checking vital signs, changing IV drips, smiling at those who were awake. When I reached room 204, the door was ajar. I pushed it gently. The faint light from the corridor crept inside, revealing what appeared to be an empty bed. "Mr. Al-Shuhub?" I whispered. No answer. I stepped inside, feeling a cold shiver despite the night's warmth. I approached the bed to find it indeed empty. The blanket lay scattered on the floor. A small trace of blood stained the pillow. I bent down to pick up the blanket and suddenly, the lights in the entire corridor went out. The sound of the medical equipment faded away. A grave-like silence descended, a silence that pressed against the eardrum. In this deep quiet, the sound came. It was like a rustling coming from the corner of the room where the small bathroom was. A continuous scraping sound accompanied by faint, intermittent clicking. I turned on the small flashlight in my hand. Its weak beam revealed the bathroom door, slightly open, moving slowly back and forth, producing that creaking noise. "Mr. Al-Shuhub, are you all right?" I asked a little louder. I approached cautiously. A strange smell began to fill the place, the smell of damp earth, something old and organic. I pushed the bathroom door open. The light revealed Munir sitting on the bathroom floor, his back to me. He was wearing the white hospital gown stained with grey patches. His body was shaking rhythmically. He was the source of the sound, the scraping sound. He turned slowly. He was holding something in his hands, something he was moving with trembling fingers, prayer beads. He was moving the beads devoutly, murmuring unclear Arabic words. But what paralyzed me was not that. It was his eyes. They were wide open, unblinking, staring through me at something behind me. His face was pale, as if all the blood had been drained from it. "Sir, what are you doing here? You must go back to bed." I reached out my hand to touch his shoulder. It was cold as ice. When I touched him, the prayer beads stopped. The murmuring stopped. Absolute silence fell. Then he spoke in a voice that was not his. It was deeper, hoarser, as if coming from the bottom of a well. "Al-Shuhub, Munir al-Shuhub." He repeated his name as if tasting it, then added a single clear word in Arabic. "I am cold." His eyes bulged further and his mouth opened wide. No further word came out, but a puff of cold air rose up into my face. Then his body went limp and the prayer beads fell from his hand. The lights returned and the sounds of the equipment came back. Munir was lying on the floor, dead. Not like any ordinary death, but grey, brittle, as if life had been drained from him completely over years, not hours. The death was officially recorded as an acute heart attack, but I saw his eyes, and I remember that word, cold. And what was more disturbing was that the nurse before me later told me that Munir used to pray devoutly before sleeping, and he would whisper only one thing: "O Lord, take me while I am prostrating." But the thing that took him, and I am certain of this, was not a merciful Lord. It was something else that had been waiting in the corner of the room, feeding on his devotion and his fear until his hour came. My name is Dr. Clara. I work as a resident in the emergency department. What terrifies me the most is not the blood nor the screams, but a certain kind of silence. The silence of patients who know deep within them that something has been ripped away from them forever. One night an ambulance brought them to us, a mother and her daughter, a car accident on Highway 17. The mother, named Sonia, sustained superficial wounds, But her daughter, Lucia, a 7-year-old, was unconscious. Her black hair was stuck to her forehead, damp with sweat and blood. We ran the tests, internal bleeding. We took her to the operating room immediately. Sonia sat in the waiting room, a woman in her mid-30s, elegant, but her hand was trembling. She stared at the wall. She did not shed a single tear. For the 3 hours of surgery, she did not move, like a statue of salt. I offered her coffee. She shook her head. And she kept whispering intermittently, "The flower. I will bring you your flower." After the surgery, Lucia was stable, but she was not well. She remained unconscious, hooked up to breathing machines. Her small face was as pale as the face of a wax doll. Sonia and I stayed by her bedside. Sonia would stroke the child's hair and whisper in her ear Spanish stories and songs. Only the sound of the ventilator answered her, and the green curves on the screen. On the third night, while I was reviewing her chart, Sonia noticed something. She was standing by the window. "Look, doctor, the moon is beautiful tonight." I looked. It was a bright, full moon. But she added in a dull voice, "Lucia loves the flowers that bloom in the moonlight. She used to plant them in the backyard." I smiled at her, but days later, I noticed that the bandage on Sonia's left arm was changing color. It looked like there was a black bruise underneath. I offered to examine it. She refused violently. Then it got worse. The bruise grew larger. Its shape became strange. It was more like a branching leaf under the skin. "Sonia, this wound needs to be treated," I insisted. The 5th time I asked, she finally agreed, reluctantly, looking at Lucia. I lifted the bandage. What I saw made me take a step back. Under the skin of her forearm, something was growing. It was not just a bruise or a vascular tear. It was an organic shape, dark, stretching along the veins. Its shape was complete, a flower with 5 petals and a delicate stem with small thorns. Not a drawing, it was living tissue, undulating slowly like algae at the bottom of an ocean. "When did this start?" I asked her, my voice choked. She looked at me. Her tears fell at last. Not tears of pain, but of infinite sorrow. The same night as the accident, after they hooked her up to the machines, it started as a black dot. But it grows every time. She stopped. Every time what? Every time I talk to her, every time I sing to her, every time I get closer to her, and the flower grows. I looked from the arm to the child on the bed. Suddenly the alarm on the ventilator rang. The oxygen level dropped. The medical team rushed. We hurried to the bed. There was something wrong with the tube, a sudden blockage. In the midst of the chaos, I saw Sonia. She was pressing her hand on the spot of the flower, and her eyes were fixed on me. There was no pleading in them. She whispered to me in a hoarse voice, "It's hungry." Lucia did not plant the flowers. The flowers planted themselves. They chose her. But now she needs me, the mother flower. At that moment, one of the assistants removed the blocked tube, and what he saw was strange. The tube was filled with small black petals, dried out, as if they had grown inside it. The chaos stopped. Everyone was bewildered. I looked at Sonia and saw her arm. The flower had bloomed further. From its center, a thin black tendril emerged, sensing the air, directed toward Lucia's bed. It was not medical. It was a spiritual parasite, something from another world feeding on the bond between the mother and her dying daughter. Lucia went into cardiac arrest minutes later. We tried to revive her for 30 minutes. Sonia's eyes never left her child's face. When we announced the time of death, 3:33 a.m., I looked at Sonia's arm. The flower beneath the skin had completely withered. It turned to black dust. It collapsed, leaving behind wrinkled, empty skin like a dead leaf. Sonia closed her eyes. She said calmly, "The flower has taken its fill." Then she added in the voice of a small child, "Lucia won't be coming back to plant in the garden." Sonia suffered from hysterical mutism afterwards. She did not utter a single word, only staring at her hollow arm. No one believed what I saw. The medical report stated, obstruction due to an unknown plant-based foreign body. But I know the truth. There are gardens we cannot see, planting their seeds in our children's dreams and in their mother's love. And when the seed becomes ill, it needs nourishment, and its food is life itself. My name is Philip, a retired nurse. I worked for 30 years in surgical and urology wards. What disturbs me most in my memories is not the blood, nor the festering wounds. It is what happened to Mr. Arthur Green. Arthur was a man in his late 60s, a retired engineer, precise, well-groomed, even in a hospital gown. He came in complaining of a sharp pain in his flank. Tests were done. We found a stone in his left kidney, 8 millimeters in size. It was not his first. He had had a stone broken up years ago, but this one was different. He spoke of it in a low voice, as if it were a person he knew. "It moves, nurse," he said the night before the operation. "I feel it crawling." I laughed softly and patted his shoulder. "Don't worry, it's just a static stone. We'll get it out tomorrow." In the operating room, I stood as usual next to the surgeon. The scope was inserted. We searched for the stone in the kidney. The doctor guided the instrument. The stone was not where we expected it to be. We searched. "Where did it go?" the surgeon muttered. And suddenly, the anesthesiologist shouted, "His pressure is crashing. He's experiencing internal bleeding." The room turned into a beehive. The surgeon quickly withdrew the scope. He opened the abdomen. A collective sigh. The bleeding was from the liver, not the kidney. But what had caused the bleeding? While trying to stop it, the surgeon saw something that made him freeze for a moment. He whispered to me, "Look, here, in the liver." There was a small hole, as if something had burrowed out of it. Arthur's condition stabilized after hours. He was transferred to the ICU. I was with him when he woke from the anesthesia. He opened his eyes slowly and looked directly at me. Not the dazed look of a patient, but focused and anxious. He said in a hoarse voice, "You took it out, didn't you?" I replied, "We haven't found it yet, but..." He interrupted me. "No, you took it out of its place, but it didn't come out of me. It's changing its location." I thought he was delirious, but he grabbed my hand with an iron grip. "I feel it here." He pointed to his chest. "It's heading upwards. It's angry." In the following nights, Arthur changed. He was no longer in pain. He became quiet, pensive. He would sit with his back straight and sometimes spread his fingers apart and contemplate them. He seemed contemplative. I asked him once, "How do you feel?" He answered, "It fills me with questions that are not mine." During the morning checkup, the doctor noticed something astonishing. The surgical wound, which had been healing normally, began to secrete a strange substance. It was not pus, it was granules, fine, shiny, black like sand. We took a sample for the lab. The result was shocking. Unknown metallic organic composition. Extraterrestrial origin cannot be ruled out. "Extraterrestrial?" The doctor laughed. But Arthur did not laugh. He said simply, "I didn't tell you. 6 months ago, I traveled to an observatory in Atacama, Chile. I was collecting soil samples near a meteorite crater. I slept one night in the open air. Perhaps..." Here, the real horror began. The stone, that thing was not just a stone, it was an egg or a carrier. And when we tried to extract it, it migrated. It began to secrete its black granules. The patient began to speak in his sleep in a language of frequencies and clicks, and the granules in his room began to gather in corners under the bed, forming little piles like strange anthills from another world. One dawn, I found him standing by the window, naked, his body covered in the black granules. They were moving on him, as if they were alive. He looked at me. The pupils of his eyes had disappeared, replaced by a gleaming blackness. He said in a monotone voice, "Now I understand. The question is not why am I here, the question is where will I be?" Then he opened his mouth. He did not scream. A cloud of black granules came out of him. It thickened and formed in the air for a moment, a complex geometric shape that the human mind could not grasp. Then Arthur collapsed. Not as a body falling, but he turned entirely into a pile of black granules, merging with those on the floor, escaping through the cracks, the air vents. The entire hospital was sealed off. Men in black suits came and cleaned everything. They said it was a rare metallic infection, and that Arthur died of acute kidney failure, but I know Arthur did not die. He distributed himself. That thing was looking for a mind to comprehend its questions. And when it found in Arthur an open, curious engineering mind, it took him. It didn't just take his body but his soul. It turned him into a swarm of black seeds, waiting in the hospital's soil for another person. Someone who asks the wrong questions under a sky open to meteorite craters.